the March 1st, 2021 meeting of the Charleston County Board of Zoning Appeals, also known as the BZA. Ms. Working, can you please go over the virtual meeting protocol?
Next slide, please. Staff will control the slides displayed throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public must be sworn in before speaking for the first time. They should state their full name and current address for the record. Only attendees who have registered to speak before the deadline, which was noon today, may speak during the meeting. Applicants and/or their representative for the public hearing cases are registered to speak. Video and microphone have been disabled for all attendees. Attendees will only be given the capability to speak when they are called on by the BZA secretary or chair. If you submitted a request to speak on a case before the deadline, staff will call your name when it is your turn to speak and will enable your microphone. Your microphone will be disabled after you are done speaking. Chat has been disabled for everyone. Board members who need to recuse themselves will not participate in discussion or deliberation and will not vote. And this meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Ms. Working, can you please call the roll for the BZA members and
Yes.
staff that are present here today?
Sure. Mr. Ray.
Present.
Miss Allison.
Present.
Mr. Boykin.
Present.
Mr. Freeman.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Marchant.
Present.
Mr. Nelson.
Present.
Miss Switzer Smalls.
Present.
Mr. Williams.
Present.
Mr. Woodall.
Present.
And the attorney for the BZA, Mr. Calvin Hugie.
Present.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Ms. Working, would you introduce the staff, please?
Yes, so we have Joshua Downey, Savannah Murray, Jennifer Stiles, and I'm Jenny Working, the BZA secretary. At this time, I'm going to swear in staff that will present testimony or evidence. Staff, please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Because the hearing tonight is a public fact-finding meeting, we are in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act and the South Carolina Code 6-29-70. 15 days prior to the hearing, an announcement was printed at the Post Courier, a sign was posted on or near the designated property, and a notice was mailed to the applicant or the applicant's representative. To the property owners within 300 feet of the property, and to parties of interest, persons, organizations, and news media that have requested declaration of our meeting have also been notified. Next slide, please. This afternoon, board, we will conduct the election of officers. The first order of business today will be the election. I am going to open the nomination process now. Does anyone have a nomination for the chair?
I do.
Mr. Woodall, chair recognizes.
I'd like to make the recommendation that William Ray stay on as chair again for this year.
I'll second.
Okay. We also had a second by Mr. Nelson and Mr. Boykin. Thank you. Do we have any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I'll close this position. And since there's only one, we still need to go through the voting process. All those in favor of having myself, William Ray, as chair, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all for this opportunity to serve as your chair again for another year. The next slate will be for vice chair. Currently, that chair was held by Ms. Lettner, who is no longer on our board. Can we now have a nomination for vice chair? Can we have a nomination?
I'll make a nomination for Mr. Boykin to be the vice chair.
Very good.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Merchant, second. We have you're shaking your head, Mr. Boykin.
I'm just smiling as I was going to do the same thing to Mr. Woodle.
Oh,
But I'll hold off. You got me.
If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I can't serve.
Mr. Boykin, you move too slow.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
okay. Do we have any other nominations for this position? Do we have any other nominations for this position for vice chair? Hearing none, this slate is closed. We'd like to go ahead and vote for this position for Mr. Boykin to be vice chairperson. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone to oppose? Same signal. There being none, congratulations, Mr. Boykin, on being vice chairperson.
Thank you all.
That slate is closed. Good. The next position is our secretary. Currently, our secretary is Ms. Working. And I'll make the motion to nominate Ms. Working again for another year. Do we have any other nominations? Well, we need a second, really. Can I get a second on having Ms. Working?
Second.
All right, Mr. Woodle and Mr. Boykin, I see. Do we have any other nominations? All right, seeing and hearing none, that slate is closed. We'll now have a vote for this position for secretary. All those in favor of having Ms. Working secretary, please raise your hand by indicating and saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? It carries. Thank you so very much, Ms. Working, for serving as secretary again for another year. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Next slide, please. Board members, meeting notes for the February 1st, 2021 public hearing were mailed to you. Are there any changes? If not, can I have a motion to approve and a second?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of February the 1st, 20.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Moss. Can I have a second?
Second.
Hold on. Chair recognizes you. Very good. Ms. Working, can you call the roll for the vote?
Sure. Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Mr. Freeman,
Aye.
Mr. Merchant,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Our case rulings from this and any other BZA meeting are available to the public viewing and inspection during normal business hours at the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Office. Next slide, please. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority on the following: appeals of zoning-related administrative decisions. The BZA is authorized to hear and decide appeals only on zoning-related matters where it is alleged that there is an error in the order, requirements, decisions, or determinations made by the administrative official in the administration or the enforcement of the zoning-related regulation. A 2/3 quorum present is required to overturn the decision of the planning director for an appeal. A special exception is an exception issued by the BZA authorizing a particular use for a specified location within the zoning district. Upon demonstrating such use complies with the conditions and standards specified by the Zoning and Land Development Regulation Ordinance, also known as ZELDAR. The BZA must find the special exception request meet all 6 criteria of the ordinance in order to grant a special exception. A simple majority is required to grant the special exception. A variance. A variance is the relaxation of the BZA of its regulations of the ordinance where such an action will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to the conditions particular to the property and not as a result of the actions or situation of the applicant, and enforcement of this code would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship. And such a variance is consistent with section 6-29-800 of the Code of the Law of South Carolina. Under Title 6, Chapter 29. The BZA must find that variances requests meet all 7 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the variance. A 2/3 of the vote of the quorum present is required to grant the variance. Next slide, please. The purpose tonight is for interested parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering evidence pertinent to each case. If a member of the BZA feels a need for further information to clarify a case, the board has the authority to subpoena a witness. It is understood that the rules of your neighborhood or subdivision are binding and that we cannot take any action that would negate their jurisdiction over your property. In addition to your testimony, the board has been presented written information submitted by staff, by the applicant or the applicant's agent for each case. This information is now considered evidence and is entered into the permanent record of the body. It is assumed to be complete, true, and accurate. In addition, we have been presented data assembled by staff for the purpose of clarifying location and the applicant's effect on the surrounding property. The board, our board, is empowered to approve with conditions, or deny special exception or variance requests. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be a need to obtain additional information. The Bza final decision will be mailed within 10 working days of the public hearing. It will be mailed, certified mail to the applicant and U.S. mail to the neighbors or the community in interest. If an applicant's request is approved, the applicant should contact the Charleston County Board of Planning Department staff to discuss the next steps in the process. Variances and special exceptions are valid for 12 months after the meeting, and 1 year extension may be granted only if construction has been commenced. However, if an applicant's request is disapproved, and if the applicant wishes to appeal the decision of the board concerning the case, an appeal must be addressed in circuit court. South Carolina Code 6-29-820 states that the appeal must be filed within 30 days after the decision the board has made and mailed to them. Failure to do so in a limited time will deprive the court of its jurisdiction to hear the matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be complete, true, and accurate. All information provided to the BZA is considered evidence, and this board may certify contempt of court if false statements are made either in writing or orally. Each person who wishes to address the board will be sworn in by the BZA secretary before they give testimony or evidence. Next slide, please. I will now call each case by case number. Staff will present facts pertinent to the case limited to 5 minutes. I will then call the applicant. The applicant will state his or her name and current address for the record before presenting testimony pertinent to the case limited to 5 minutes. I will also ask those speaking either in support or in opposition to the case, and they will also follow the same procedure for identifying themselves and are limited to 2 minutes each. The applicant will then have a chance to reply to any opposition limited to 2 minutes. And the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application stating specific facts of finding and conclusion of evidence. Tonight, we had the pleasure of hearing 6 new cases. Next slide, please. Mr. Downing, can you please introduce the first new case, case BZA-01-21-004449.
BZA case 01-21-00449. The applicant and property owner, William and Theodosia Wade, are requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the single-family R4 residential zoning district at 624 Flint Street, TMS number 424-09-00-172 on James Island in Charleston County. The 0.33 acre subject property and properties to the west are located in the single-family R4 zoning district, and the properties to the north, south, and east are located in the city of Charleston's jurisdiction. The property contains an 1,120 square foot home with 3 bedrooms that was constructed in 1956 per Charleston County records. Staff did conduct a site visit on February the 8th, 2021. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve the conditions or deny BZA case 01-21-00449, special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the single-family R4 residential zoning district at 624 Flint Street, TMS number 424-09-00-172 on James Island in Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event that the board decides to approve this application, the board should consider the following conditions recommended by staff. Number 1, prior to the zoning permits approval, the applicant should complete the limited site plan review process. Number 2, the applicant should comply with all articles of 6.8. The property shall not be used for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And number 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. We did not receive any public comment on this case.
Okay. Is the applicant available? Okay. First of all, I'm sorry. Do we have any questions of staff?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
How many square foot is this house? How many square feet is it? I didn't notice.
1,120.
1120?
Yes, sir. According to the Charleston County records.
Okay. And you said how many days you gonna rent it out?
No more than 144 days in aggregate.
Out of the year or altogether?
Yes, sir. Altogether, 144 days.
Oh, a cumulative of all the years?
No, of per calendar year.
Per calendar year, okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Any other questions of staff? No? I see we have the applicant that's available. Ms. Working, could you swear in our applicant, please?
Yes, Miss Wade, can you please raise your right hand? I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Could you also state your address, Ms. Wade?
Yes,
Ms. Wade, please.
my permanent address is 1520 River Cove Road, Social Circle, Georgia. The property in question is 624 Flint Street, James Island, Charleston, 29412.
Well, thank you for coming and meeting with us tonight through Zoom. Ms. Wade, please tell us why we should approve your application.
Because I'm a great neighbor. And we are very cautious about who we rent to. We've been renting until, of course, the county did the permitting process. So we have rented since 2017, I want to say. And we started, I think, the first year with about, in 2017, we had 50 days of rental. In 2018, we had 58 days of rental. And in 2019, we had 71 days of rental. 2020 was when we got our cease and desist order and said that the county had followed the city guidelines for requesting permits for all of these short-term rental things. And I think that's a great idea. I think you need to be aware of where these businesses are. And so if neighbors have a problem, they need to have somewhere they can go to, you know, to say, I'm having a problem. It's a great neighborhood. I really like it. It's an older neighborhood. Like you see, the house was built in the 50s. It's a cinder block house. It is not something people want for parties and that sort of thing. So we really haven't had any trouble with our renters. And because renters are rated on Airbnb, that's the site that we have been using. I can look at them and question whether or not they would be a good renter. I can look at the comments that other people have left. Many of you probably use Airbnb yourselves when you go on vacation, and you probably already know how it works. But that does give me some comfort that my neighbors, Catherine on one side is a nurse, Andy on the other side works some at night, and you know, he's in and out. And you know, I think it's important to be a good neighbor. So we're cautious, I guess I would say, about that.
Very good.
We are planning to come and live there ourselves, as my husband will be working there in Charleston, July, August, and September. So, you know, we want to keep good relations with our neighbors.
Ms. Wade, did you ever live there at any time?
My son lived there. So we lived in Charleston, 80, Billy, what was it? 80?
86. About
80 to 86. And lived and worked in Charleston. I was at the MUSC, and Billy was the minister at the First Presbyterian, Westminster Presbyterian Church in West Ashley. And we lived in Burns Downs actually at that time. And then my son, after college, he went to PC, and when he came to Charleston, he was working as a caddy, a golf caddy, before he figured out what he wanted to do. And we bought the house then as an investment for all of our whole family, because we have 3 sons. And when Graham got married, we just decided it was, we didn't want to give it up because we liked being there too much in our own home. And now we have grandchildren that we visit down there. So we like having the house for us when we want to use it.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
Hold tight. Do we have anyone that has a question of Ms. Wade? I see no hands whatsoever. Thank you so very much, Ms. Wade, for your testimony tonight. Is your husband available, and would he like to?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Working will also swear you in, Mr. Wade. And if you would, please, sir.
State your address.
Would you like to speak?
I have nothing more to say. I think that she said it all. We've been good neighbors, and we know some of them from way back. Yeah. So we love the neighborhood.
Jenny,
we retired.
Mr. Wade,
I'm telling the truth.
Mr. Wade, I apologize, sir. I'm the attorney for the board.
Yes.
Jenny, he needs to be sworn in because he's being recorded. So.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Wade, please continue.
I think that's about all. I said we have neighbors we've known a long time who are there, and now that we're retired, we go down a lot more. We've had a lot of people who have wanted to buy the house.
Yeah.
We get things all the time, but we love it. We love being there. We love neighborhood and the neighbors. My wife's worked on a lot of things in the neighborhood community as well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Do we have any board members that has a question up? Mr. Williams has a question.
My apologies. What neighborhood was that again? I don't think I noticed.
It's Laurel Park.
Laurel Park.
We're off Central Park Road over where the old theater used to be. We're a nice neighborhood right across the street from that.
Yeah, I know where that theater. Yeah, I remember that theater.
Yeah.
Good movie prices.
Yeah, great. It's gone now, but it was great prices.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Wade? Thank you, Mr. Wade, for your testimony tonight. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application?
No, we do not. And we do not have anyone to speak in opposition either.
Okay. Board members, do we have any discussion? Do we have any questions? Okay. Very good. At this time, I'll close it for all the public. At this time, I need a motion to either approve or deny this application, BZA 01-21-00449.
Mr. Chair, I would like the motion to approve case BZA 01-21-0049 for a special exception for short-term rental. I find in hearing and reviewing the facts of the case that it is compatible with the existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. I find that the applicant has made adequate provisions for such items such as setbacks, buffering, to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influences of the proposed STRP use, such as noise, traffic congestion, trash, parking, and similar factors. And also find that this request complies with all applicable rules and regulations and standards of this ordinance, including but not limited to any use conditions, zoning district standards, and applicable STRP site plan review requirements of this ordinance. I believe particularly the lack of any response from neighbors, the fact that there is a history of rental use for the property, and no complaints related to use of the property for short-term rentals. I believe that this is a wise one for us to approve. In approving this, I believe we should attach the 4 conditions requested by staff. So number 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. 3, the property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that the tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance.
Very good, Mr. Nelson.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, was that Mr. Merchant?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so very much. We have a motion that has been moved and seconded. Do we have any other? Okay. At this time, I'd like to close it and bring it up for vote. Ms. Working, could you call the roll, please?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye, sorry.
No problem. Mr. Merchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
Ms. Switzer Smalls,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 4 conditions.
Mr. and Mrs. Wade, congratulations. Within 10 business days, you'll get information from staff letting you know the next step in the process. Congratulations again. You're welcome. You're muted, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess you can read lips. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll leave the meeting now.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank
But-
you.
bye.
Bye. Okay, I say that.
Very good. Thank you. So our next case will be case BZA 01-21-00450. And Ms. Working will be presenting the facts for this particular case.
Can everyone please mute that's not speaking? I think there's a little bit of feedback going on here. The applicant property owner is Patricia Fair. The property is located at 3956 Gift Boulevard on Johns Island. Tax map number 24901000011. The property is zoned agricultural residential AGR zoning district. The request is for a variance to reduce the required 50-foot OCRM critical line setback by 8 feet to 42 feet for a proposed swimming pool. And the requirement is from Chapter 4, the Article 4.7, and Chapter 9, Article 9.7 is where you can find the setback requirements for the critical line. Next, please. This is the ordinance requirements, again, from Chapter 4 and Chapter 9. Next. This map shows the property. This is a zoning map showing that it's an AGR right on the water. Next. A zoomed in aerial of the property. And the zoomed out aerial. And then this is a photo of the front of the property. And the rear, this is the proposed location of the pool. Some more pictures of the rear of the property looking towards the marsh. And some views of the adjacent properties. And as far as the criteria 1 through 7, staff stated that we did not think it met 1 and 6. We think it meets 2 and 5, and it may meet 3, 4, and 7. They did get approval from their ARB, the neighborhood ARB, and we don't have any conditions for this request if you choose to approve it. This is the site plan showing the proposed pool. And then the survey that shows existing conditions and that delineated the critical line, and then the subdivision plat. And do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you. I'm sorry. Mr. Williams, I saw your hand. Do you have a question? Mr. Williams, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was muted. Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
So you said staff doesn't believe it meets 1 and 6. Why is that?
Okay, so 1, we said that there are no extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the property. The property is about half an acre. It contains a single-family residence that was constructed in 2017. The county adopted the OCRM setbacks and buffers in 2001. The existing rear porch is located approximately 70 feet, so it's well over the setback and buffer from the critical line. And then as far as 6, we just said the need, maybe the result of the applicant's own actions.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Borkin?
Ms. Working, I just had a question. Do you know what the front setback is for that particular lot?
Yes, it's 50 feet.
50 feet. Do you know how many feet the house is set back from that line by chance?
Let's see.
I was trying to look at the diagram here. It looks like it's kind of small in the picture. I was trying to strain to see it.
I think it says 81
81. Okay. All right.
to the
All right.
porch with that one. Yeah, so the steps should still, but the required setback's 50.
Right. Okay. I just want to, yeah. Okay. I just want to see they're, I guess I'm not sure if the applicant was the one that built the house in 2017 or not, but I guess if the house had been built, a little bit further, closer to the street, it would have given them more room to deal with that buffer
Correct.
in the setback. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Anyone else have a question? Mr. Marchant, sorry.
No worries. It's working. Similar to the previous question, it looks like the pool and the patio is offset about 44 feet 9 inches from the critical line. And this may be a question for the applicant, but I wonder, are they asking for 42 feet because the design we're looking at is not current, or does that give them wiggle room? Sort of a question around design and intent, and then why we're asking for a setback that's different than what's shown on the design.
I think I do see a 44, so it looks like maybe at the closest point it's about 44.
Yeah, 44 feet 9 inches is what I'm
Yeah.
reading, if that's correct.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And perhaps again, it's the applicant can address it. Similarly, could the design of the pool and patio itself be modified to meet the OCRM setback criteria? I'm not sure what that kind of square piece is closer to the house, but
That's their existing fire pit, I believe.
I gotcha.
And it's really just the pool cavity that has to meet that. But the good news is that the request does meet the buffer requirement.
Thank you.
Jenny, do you know if this is a planned development?
It is not. It's AGR.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else have a question for staff? Mr. Williams, did I see your hand again, sir? Oh, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, go ahead first, sir.
Hey, Jenny, is the house set back at a distance that's similar to the adjacent properties, or is it set a little further on the lot?
Yeah. So, Savannah, can you go back to the zoomed in aerial? That'd be a good one to show. It may be set back a little bit further than the other ones. I know the applicant is going to speak about some of these other pools in the neighborhood, like the pool to the north, for example, was permitted, I believe, in 1996, before the 2001 ordinance. So it does appear to be closer. I don't have a survey, so I can't tell you how close it is, but it does appear to be closer to the critical line.
Mr. Williams?
Just for clarity, are they trying to put the pool in the front yard or backyard?
The backyard.
And it has to be, current criteria is that it has to be 50 feet from what point?
Right, the critical line, which is basically the rear property line is the critical line.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Williams?
Well, I'm just trying to get clarity as far as the line. Is that because of wetlands, the pool has to be a certain distance from the river, or what?
So yeah, the OCRM critical line is saltwater. So anytime there is saltwater marsh, DHEC delineates the line, but they don't require any setbacks or buffer from the line. Charleston County zoning does, but we just make sure that DHEC, that's why they got a new survey to make sure that the line hasn't it hasn't protruded further into their property, but the rear property line is the critical line. And we're trying to, at minimum, keep that 5-foot buffer, which they have maintained for this request. And then the 50-foot setback is for like the pool cavity.
So the furthest part of the pool you want it to be 50 feet from the line as currently stated?
That's correct.
And they wanted to be, okay, 8 foot.
Yeah, an 8-foot encroachment.
Is that for purposes of chemical runoff into the river or what?
Well, it's for any structure, but a pool we consider to be a structure. Like, so you can have like a patio, like the fire pit's fine within the setback. Those the kind of things, those shouldn't be in the buffer.
Okay.
Does anyone, Mr. Borkin?
Yes, I just wanted to respond to Mr. Marchant on his question. I think I might see what the issue is. The line we're looking at is not the nearest point of the critical line to the proposed pool. If you look kind of to the center of the pool, you'll see it juts in a little bit. That might be, is this the closest point, right, Jenny?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. Ms. Workin, is the applicant available?
Yes. All right, she should be on here now. There she is. Hi, Ms. Fair. I'm going to go ahead and swear you in. Can you please raise your right hand? I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And just state your full name and address for the record, please.
Patricia Fair, 3956 Gift Boulevard, Johns Island.
Good afternoon, Ms. Fair. How are you?
I am well, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to address the committee on requesting this variance. I put a couple points together to probably address some of the questions that came up as well. The setback that
we're giving you time. Please go ahead and tell this board why we should approve this application.
Okay, the size of the swimming pool is a very common standard size. It's not oversized or anything like that. It's 16 feet wide by 32 feet long. The pool is for personal use and will be largely used for routine exercise. So the location of the pool optimizes the utilization of the property, and it's situated directly behind our house for the reasons, number one, that it provides privacy and it avoids impinging upon the neighbors' adjacencies, and also the street view. In doing so, and this was brought up both by Mr. Marchant and Mr. Boykin, they've noticed that it's only a small part of the back of the pool that actually where the critical line comes in. So that's a maximum of 8 feet, and it does have a little wiggle room, which is actually 6 feet. So, but a lot of the pool area is only like 2 feet over, which is mostly deck. So it's really quite minimum. And technically, while the pool decking is contiguous with the house and the porch, the pool itself needs to be distant enough from the foundation, which is the primary factor dictating the placement of the pool. So by extending this a maximum of only 8 feet into the 50-foot setback and recognizing that other areas will be much less than this, the current design decreases the amount of hardscape on our property, which if we elongated the pool to stay out of those few feet, we would be adding additional decking. So actually the current location decreases the total impervious surface, acting as an effective conservation measure. And serving as a environmental researcher for 40 years with federal agency, I know how important impervious surfaces are and to avoid that, especially with flooding and climate changes. So with that, the size and location is consistent with pools in the neighborhood. And as was mentioned, the pool next door, which actually our neighbors really offered the use of that pool for our family, which was great, but they sold their house recently. So we're really missing having the use of that pool. And that pool was only 9 feet from the marsh. So that's 41 feet into the 50-foot setback. So at that time, recognizing that occurred before the current setbacks that were established in 2001. So our pool conforms to the properties of the surrounding neighborhoods, does not conflict with covenants or plans, and granting this will not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan. And it maintains that 35-foot OCRM critical line buffer. And in addition, our site plan was approved by the Gift Plantation Architectural Review Board on January 12th. So it's consistent with the existing covenants and restrictions in our development as well. And that probably sums up, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Borkin, I see your hand right away.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Fair. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you this evening?
Doing fine, doing fine. Did y'all, by chance, build the house yourselves, or was it a pre-existing house that you bought?
No, we built it.
Okay, so y'all built it in 2017. Did you have the lot for a period of time prior to building the house?
Not very long.
Not very long. Okay, all right.
Moved the whole distance from James Island.
Gotcha. One of the things I was looking at was, hindsight's always 20/20. It looked like you had a little extra room on the front side of your house if the house had been built just a little bit closer to the street, that you wouldn't even, I guess, find yourself in this predicament. And I was just trying to kind of figure out how y'all got where you are right now. But I agree with you. It's a very minor encroachment to the setback, and the plan you've got. I'm glad you brought the point about your foundation. That certainly gives some reason as to why you couldn't move the pool perhaps closer to the house to alleviate that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
Good evening. What were you saying about the decking for the pool?
There's a decking area around the pool that's around 3 feet. So, and it's not the pool per se, but sometimes it's the decking.
Does it add to the?
And the OCRM critical line isn't just one straight line. It moves like in diagonals. So there's only one section in the back that actually impinges more so on that.
Does that decking add to the position of the pool?
Well, you have to have some decking around it. There's a minimum space, I believe, of 2 or 3 feet.
I mean, does that decking extend the positioning of the pool further, or
no?
Where the cement is, or what? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Borkin, I see your hand again, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Fair, as a owner of a pool myself, is it by chance the pool you're going to install a fiberglass pool?
No, it's a gunite.
A gunite, okay. So they're going to dig the hole and put the wire up and spray it. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Nope. That was what I need to know. Thank you.
Was there anyone else that had a question? Yes, sir, Mr. Nelson.
Mrs. Fair, how are you today?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. One question, I believe Ms. Working mentioned that the actual setback and variance that's required for the pool is really related to the pool structure and not the decking that surrounds the pool. So
No, no, it also, it's also pertaining to the decking, if that was not correctly.
Yeah, I thought that it was pavement instead of decking. It looked like brick, but
Right, it's
yeah.
it's
How far is the decking off the ground?
it's 3 feet.
Okay, yeah, so they're correct. That's part of the request. The decking's part of the request. I apologize.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Thank you so very much, Ms. Fair, for your testimony tonight.
My pleasure.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application?
No, we do not have anyone else to speak in favor and no opposition to this case.
Thank you. Board, do we have any other questions or discussion? Mr. Williams.
Question to the staff real quick. This 50-foot, I guess, buffer distance or whatever it is what's the reasoning for that? You know what is the purpose of that 50-foot distance needed?
Well, yeah, so it is for environmental reasons, runoff, things like that. But just so that, because normally the setback in AGR would be 30, the building setback. So think of it more like a building structure setback. And then within the 50-foot, there's a 35-foot buffer. And then the buffer really shouldn't have anything in it at all. So, but the 50-foot is the setback. And it's more so on when you're next to saltwater than if you were just an interior lot, it would be 30-foot setback.
So whether it's a building or a pool, and in this case it's a pool, it's possible runoff from the pool, chlorine or what? Or is runoff from a building or?
So Mr. Williams, so DHEC sets standards for the critical line to protect the environment. Mm-hmm. And so Zeldar kind of mimics some of that so that when there is runoff, there's marsh and other environmental area to try and dilute any chemicals before it gets into the whatever body of water that is nearby.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Huger. Very eloquently spoken. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Mr. Martin. Yes, sir.
Is this a saltwater pool or a chlorine pool? Just out of curiosity.
You can ask the applicant to come.
Yeah, there she is. Okay.
Okay. Yes, I was going to jump in there, but I was muted. It's a saltwater pool.
Thank you.
Good question. Anyone else? Okay, very good. This case is closed to the public. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve or deny this application. Case BZA-01-21-00450. Do we have anyone? Mr. Martin, did I see your hand go up?
Oh, you did not. I was taking a drink. Sorry.
Okay. There is no, okay, Mr. Nelson.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve case BZA 0121-00450 for a request for a variance from the 50-foot setback from the OCRM critical line. For criteria number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. This is there are going to be a couple of conditions in here that are going to be tough to work around, as indicated by staff in their report. But given the nature of the property and reviewing some of the aerials and how the adjacent properties are utilized, while some advanced planning in 2017 when the house was constructed could have avoided the need for a variance, I don't think that this particular request is going to cause any concerns about potential contamination within the salt marsh. So therefore, I do think that given the just the change in use, even change in neighbors that has occurred, that provides enough evidence for the applicant to meet the criteria that there are some exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular property. Condition 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. And as pointed out by the applicant, there is a neighboring home that has a pool that was likely built prior to the adoption of the current ordinance. However, that pool does exist within 9-10 feet of the salt marsh boundary of the critical line. And I don't believe there's any evidence of any degradation of the salt marsh adjacent to that particular pool. So I don't see reason that a newly built pool that's properly maintained would affect the marsh there, and we meet that criteria. Condition 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Again, this is a difficult one to say that it absolutely would restrict use of the property. However, the applicant has gone through the process of gaining ARB approval within their neighborhood, and the neighborhood itself has not commented or complained about this particular use. So I think it would be wise for the BZA to allow it as well. Condition number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting of the variance. Again, this is a minor encroachment upon the setback and not the buffer, and the applicant will make, I think, is taking care to reduce the amount of pervious surface associated with the pool in order to reduce potential impacts to the salt marsh. Condition 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted. The request clearly meets this criteria. Condition 6, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own action. In this particular case, again, the way the house was constructed is really forcing the location of the pool itself. So there some advanced planning may have mitigated this particular circumstance, but again, because of the minor encroachment, I believe that that the applicant meets criteria 6. And condition 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of the ordinance. And I agree with staff that this request meets this criteria. In granting this variance, I do not think that staff recommended any special conditions, and therefore I do not think that we should add any special conditions to the variance request as well.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Do we have a second? Mr. Borkin.
I absolutely concur with Mr. Nelson's recommendation for approval, and also note the minimal incursion into the setback on this particular project.
Thank you. At this time, Ms. Workin, could you call for the vote?
And Mr. Boykin seconded. Is there no other discussion?
Any other discussion? Thank you, Ms. Workin.
Just,
Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
I was just curious if the lawyer or anybody knows when this, I know the house was built around 2017, but when was this 50-foot, I guess, ordinance put in place?
2001.
2001?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. Williams. Any other discussion? Very good. Ms. Workin, could you call the roll for the vote?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous for approval.
Thank you, board. Ms. Fair, congratulations on getting your application approved. Within 10 business days, you will get notification from staff letting you know the next step in the process. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time and efforts on this.
Very good. Enjoy your food.
Okay, thank you. I will leave the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, next case we have on file is case BZA 01-21-00451. And that was by Mr. Josh Downey.
Case 01-21-00451. The applicant Ross Appel and the property owner Ernest Russell Washburn is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the Natural Resource Management Zoning District at 3825 Buccaneer Road, TMS number 571160010 on Goat Island in Charleston County. The subject property and surrounding properties are located in the Natural Resource Management Zoning District, and the property is approximately 0.45 acres and contains a home that was constructed in 1991 for Charleston County records. Staff conducted a site visit on February the 8th. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions or deny BZA case 01-21-00451, special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the single-family R4 residential zoning district, Natural Resource Management at 3825 Buccaneer Road, TMS number 571160010 on Goat Island in Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. The board should consider the following recommendations by staff. Number one, prior to permit approval, the applicant shall comply and complete with the short-term rental property limited site plan review process. The applicant shall comply with all articles of 6.8. The property shall not be rented for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And the last one, the property owner shall ensure that the tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. We also did not receive any public comment for this case.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Downey? Anyone, any staff member have a question? Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Downey, were you lucky enough to be the one to take the boat ride over to Goat Island?
Myself, Ms. Working, and Ms. Murray were all fortunate to take that ride over to Goat Island.
Was it tough to get volunteers to go with you on that particular trip?
Not on that trip, no, sir.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? They didn't tell you where they had lunch. See, that's what y'all missing.
Classified information, Mr. Ray.
Very good.
Can I just ask one thing or get clarification? It looks like he's also in the same predicament as the other lady. He was already renting this property and maybe he got a cease and desist. Do we know?
This property was one of the ones that did get a cease and desist letter. He also had a limited home rental permit at one time and has requested for an extended home rental permit.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Smalls. Anyone else? Mr. Williams.
So they're looking, do you know if they're looking to use Airbnb as well?
I'm not sure which platform they are looking to use. Goat Island has different ones. Some people on Goat Island use VRBO more than Airbnb, but that is a question for the applicant when it comes up.
Very good. Ms. Working. Anyone else? Ms. Working, is the applicant available, please?
Yes.
So please swear him in.
Ready when you are.
Oh, okay, I thought you were muted. Sorry about that. Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Okay. And then state your full name and address for the record.
Sure. Ross Appel here on behalf of Russ, I'm sorry, Washburn. My address is 359 King Street, Charleston, South Carolina, 29401.
Good afternoon, sir. Or good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Ray, and it is a pleasure to see everybody else. I must say that it is not quite the same without one Tommy Goldstein on the Board of Zoning Appeals for Charleston County, but I think we will always have the memories, right?
We always keep you on your toes. Mr. Appel, please tell this august body, I know you're accustomed to hearing that, please tell us why we should approve your application.
Sure. You should approve the application because we meet all three of the special exception criteria for this request. My client is the owner of 3825 Buccaneer Road on Goat Island. And this particular property is essentially a straight shot across the intercoastal waterway from the Isle of Palms Marina. So this is an area that is quite busy. And, you know, of course, under the ZLDR, Goat Island is subject to R4 zoning regulations, which gives it eligibility for the extended home rental permit that we're before you to discuss today. And that's to allow not just 144 days per year, but it also allows a property that's not, the owner occupied primary residence to function for a short-term rental. So diving into the criteria, the first criteria, compatibility with existing uses in the vicinity and non-adverse impacts to adjoining properties. My client has legally used the property as a short-term rental for several years. I actually helped him obtain the LHR permit, which allows for 72 rentals a year. We're simply looking to increase to 144. There have been no complaints over the years. My client is a good operator, and he's actually on the line to speak to y'all during the 2-minute period if y'all have any specific questions for him. There was a question earlier about who's going to be marketing the rentals. My client lists the property with Island Realty, and that does a lot of things. That helps provide sort of a vetting process for potential renters. And then, of course, we've got, on the ground, property managers who know Goat Island, know the area. They handle the trash pickup. They do all the other types of management activities that help to stop problems from happening before they even start. We've got 2 letters of support that are in your materials today, both from the neighbor to the south and the neighbor to the north. And we appreciate y'all taking that into consideration. We're unaware of any neighbor opposition or any other opposition to this. And there's precedent for granting EHR permits on Goat Island. I did a quick search and found that back in May 6th of 2019, the BZA granted an EHR permit to 3301 Buccaneer Road on Goat Island, just right down the street. So we believe we meet the first criteria. The second criteria is the one that gets to issues of setbacks, buffers, et cetera. Fortunately, on Goat Island, traffic is not a factor. Vehicles aren't allowed on the island, so that's one that we easily meet. As far as natural buffering trees and things of that nature, the property is actually blessed to have an abundance of natural trees and grand trees on the property, and this provides a fair amount of buffering with adjoining properties. Also to the north, there's actually a little right-of-way that separates my client's property from Mr. Cummings's property. So there's even further buffering by way of that right-of-way. And as I mentioned earlier, all sort of noise, trash, and other quality of life issues will be addressed by the Island Realty folks on the ground. Finally, the third criteria complies with all applicable regulations in the ZLDR and the site plan review process. We are well underway. Limited site plan review process, and of course will comply with all applicable requirements. There's a pretty good site plan in the materials before you, and we are fine with staff's proposed conditions, and we believe that we received a pretty favorable staff report here, and we would just respectfully request you grant us our EHR permit this evening And we appreciate your time and are happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have a question of the applicant?
I apologize, and please, Mr. Capel, you'll understand what I'm about to say. And please, board, do not take this as negative or positive. Mr. Appel's statement about another short-term rental being approved in the neighborhood is not part of your evaluation. You need to evaluate this applicant based on the criteria and what is before you. Again, that does not reflect on Mr. Appel's, or Attorney Appel's presentation, which was an excellent presentation. However, you need to review this in light of the facts before you.
Thank you, Attorney Hughey. Ms. Malls, I believe I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. You said that they were renting for 74 days before, and now they're looking to rent for 144. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's right. It's currently permitted at the LHR level, which is 72 nights per year, and we're simply looking to kind of upgrade that.
Do we have anyone else have a question? Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
My apologies. What is the size of this this house again?
That is a good. That is a good question. You know, my client is on the line here. He may be in a better position to give you the exact square footage on that. Although I believe we've got a site plan in the record before y'all that may have that information. Let me see if I can dial it up. Yeah, that's the site plan. So let's see.
Yeah, it does say 3,825. I think that's what that says. Oh, wait.
I think that might be the address.
That might be 30. Okay,
Must
well,
be-
let's just ask the applicant.
Is that an old, is that an old plan?
I can't tell if that's a measurement. That doesn't, I don't think it's that big.
Yeah.
54
So I mean, it's 54
by 52.
Feet by 52 feet. So roughly, let's see.
So
I can do math like that.
25.
So we're looking at,
looks like.
yeah, and of course we'll let Mr. Washburn put a finer point on that. It is time.
Is it kind of on the water, or I'm just trying to judge?
Yes, it is. It is on the water right there on the Intercoastal Waterway. It's pretty much catty corner to the IOP Marina. So in other words, you know, I think that it certainly could be argued that there's other parts of Goat Island that are maybe a little less, let's call it high impact, right? If you know you're at the furthest end north or the furthest end south, but there's a lot of activity in this area of the Intercoastal Waterway right there, just given the proximity of the marina and Wild Dunes. And also it makes for the short ferry ride because of course that's how all the guests are gonna make it to the home for their rentals.
I'm not too familiar with Goat Island, that's what I'm asking.
Sure.
Good question, sir. Good question. Mr. Borkin.
Just to try to, maybe this will help clarify some of this from Mr. Williams. It looks like they're only asking to utilize 3 bedrooms for rental purposes. So that may give you a better idea of what the intensity might be of the rental.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Appel, thank you for your testimony tonight. And are you in the same room with the applicant, the owner?
No, sir. And thank you for the opportunity. I believe Mr. Washburn is also on the Zoom line, maybe in the waiting room.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and you could stay on too.
Sounds good. I'll put myself on mute and behave.
I'm just asking him to unmute right now.
Can you hear me? I've never done this before.
Okay,
Hello?
we could see and hear you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, can you please raise your right hand? I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth I do.
I do.
Good evening, Mr. Washburn.
Good evening. Thank you all for hearing the case tonight.
Good. Please tell us why we should approve your application, sir.
Well, like the previous short-term rental applicants, I'm a good neighbor and make sure that we don't bother, that none of our customers bother the surrounding neighbors or the community, and they respect the noise ordinances and act as I would if I were in my house.
Mr. Washburn, I failed to get your address. Would you please state your address for the record, please?
617 Crystal Drive, Spartanburg, South Carolina, 29302.
Very good. Continue if you like. You still have 2 more minutes if you like, sir.
Well, I think we've about summed everything up. I would just like it if you guys would please consider giving us the approval. And thank you very much.
Okay, please hold tight. I imagine some of our board members may have a question or two for you, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Williams, I see your hand first, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Washburn. How long have you rented the property out up to this point?
About 16 years, on and off.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Washburn, are you looking to, are you going to be renting the entire house or just a portion of the house?
The entire house.
And how many?
We only rent 3 bedrooms. We don't allow more than 8 people in.
Okay.
Anyone else? I see no hands. Mr. Washburn, I thank you so very much for your testimony tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Okay. Ms. Workin, do we have anyone else to speak in support or opposition for this case?
No, as previously mentioned, there were the 2 letters of support in the packet, but we did not receive any opposition and we don't have any other speakers for tonight for this case.
Thank you. Board members, do we have any questions for staff or general comments? Very good. I'll now close this case to the public and we'll ask for a motion to approve or deny. Mr. Merchant, I saw your hand first, sir.
Chairman Ray, I move that we approve BZA case 0121000451 as it is in agreement with all 3 criteria. Criteria 1, it is compatible with the existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare character of the immediate community. In fact, it is exactly what everyone else does on Goat Island, which is rent their houses for rental use. And so it's certainly in concert with what else is happening on that island. It meets criteria 2. Adequate provision is made and or exists for such items as setbacks, buffering to protect adjacent properties from the possible adverse influence of the proposed STRP use, such as noise, traffic congestion, trash parking, and similar factors. I appreciate the fact that there's a realty and agency managing the property, dealing with trash. Obviously, traffic is not an issue except for by boat, which is directly adjacent to and across from the existing dock. And it again conforms with all other provisions that are on the island by other properties. And it meets criteria 3, complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of the ordinance, including but not limited to any use conditions, zoning district standards, and applicable STRP site plan review requirements of this ordinance. As the applicant mentioned, they're currently under site plan review process and have rented the property in the past, and is just asking for an extension of that. So I will say and recommend as part of the motion that the applicant provide all the 4 criteria that the staff recommends. The zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process, which sounds like is underway. The use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. The property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in the aggregate during any calendar year, and the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring all tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second? Mr. Woodall, I see your hand. Thank you, sir. We have a second.
Second.
Question? Any questions? Ms. Working, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Marchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 4 conditions.
Congratulations, Mr. Washburn, for getting your application approved. You had some good help. He always seems to find his way through the board and make sure that these applications get approved somehow away.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the consideration.
Within 10 days, you'll get notice from the staff letting you know exactly the next step in the process, sir. Once again, congratulations to the both of you. And good night.
Good night.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate the time.
Very good. We're moving right along, board. Thank you for your time and your participation tonight. Our next case will be case BZA 01-21-00452, and that will be done by Mr. Allen.
BZA case 01-21-00452. The applicant and property owner Jason E. Fiddler of PB LLC is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental extended home rental in the single-family R4 residential zoning district at 427 Parkdale Drive, TMS number 310-11-000013 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County. The subject property has approximately 0.28 acres. Surrounding properties to the north and east are located in the single-family R4 zoning district, and the properties to the south and west are located in the city of Charleston's jurisdiction. The property contains a 1,568 square foot home that was constructed in 1968 for Charleston County records. Staff conducted a site visit on February 8th. The board may approve with conditions or deny BZA case 01-21-00452 special exception to establish a short-term rental extended home rental in the single-family R4 residential zoning district at 427 Parkdale Drive, TMS number 310-11-00-0013 in the St. Andrews area of Charleston County, based on BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event that the board does decide to approve the applicant's application, the board should consider the 4 recommendations by staff. Number 1, prior to the zoning approval permit, the applicant shall complete the limited site plan review process. The applicant shall comply with all the uses of Article 6.8. The property shall not be used for more than 144 days in any aggregate during the calendar year. And number 4, the property shall be responsible for ensuring the tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance. Staff did receive 2 letters in opposition to this application. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any question of staff at this time regarding this? No one? Very good. Ms. Working, is the applicant available, please?
Yes.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, this is the first time I'm using this.
Okay.
How is everyone tonight?
Great. Thank you.
Good. I want to start off by
One
saying
moment.
I do wear hearing aids, so it can be a little bit difficult for me to understand what people are saying, so I must apologize.
Okay.
So,
So I would just ask if everyone that's not speaking to mute, because that does, cause a little feedback. It's harder to hear. But Mr. Fiddler, I'd like to go ahead and get you sworn in. If you can please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, and then just state your full name and address for the record.
My full name is Jason Edward Fiddler. I reside at 1651 Pleasant Hill Drive in Charleston, South Carolina, 29414.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well, sir. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank
Please
you.
please tell this body why we should approve your application, sir.
Well, we are going to comply with all the rules and regulations that has been stated by the various other short-term rental applicants tonight. I've been I am a super host. I'm on Airbnb. We've had 27 people stay at the house already. We are a 5-star rating. We vet all our guests, just like previous guests stated. We don't allow any parties. We don't allow pets. We are going to comply with the visual presentation of the property. We have lawnmower service every week. We have quiet hours, and we vet all of our guests. We don't want any problems. We have very good relationships with our neighbors, and we tend to keep it that way. And we've never had any complaints from the police or anything, or nobody's brought anything to my attention. I've also spoke to the neighbor directly to my side and her family, and they've spoke very highly of it, and they have not had income issues. And they've also mentioned that the guests that stay at Airbnb, the Airbnb guests are very nice and friendly people. We also have fencing and a garage that is offset. So it's quiet in that, and it's cozy. I also live 3 minutes down the road, so I'm living in Charleston, so any of the issues, I can be available quickly. And there's no HOA, so we're not gonna have any issues with that. Like I said, we've been over this year, and I enjoy this. This is something I like to do, and I just request that everybody approve it. And I want to thank everybody for the time. And please let me know if you have any questions, and I would be more than happy to answer.
Thank you so very much for your testimony, sir.
Yes, sir.
Give us a few minutes. We may have a few board members that might have a question or two for you, okay?
Yes, sir. No problem.
Does anyone on the board have a question for the applicant? Well, sir, I see no hands. So I guess no one really has a question of you at this time.
Okay.
I do thank you so very much for your testimony tonight, sir.
Thank you.
I take that back. You had 2 letters of opposition.
Okay.
Did you receive those letters, a copy of those letters?
I received one by email from Miss Workings. Yes.
What are
There's
your
a
thoughts?
short one.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they didn't really state why they didn't want it. They just voted against it. But I would say we have a large fence. It's 8 foot high. And we have rules in place that there's no there's no parties. And we actually don't allow pets. So we're not going to have any dogs barking and I stay in touch with the guests and I ask them. The other thing we do is we vet them just to make sure we can look at their previous history and make sure that they haven't had any prior issues. So we only try to rent from somebody that we know is going to take good care of the property and respect the noise ordinance. The last thing we want to do is have a bad relationship with our neighbors, because we strive for good customer service, and we wouldn't have 5-star super host status if we didn't or take care of the guests rather, or make sure that things were run properly.
Very good, sir. Very good.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? I see none. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Very good. So that there aren't any other people to speak in favor or opposition, correct, Ms. Working?
That's correct. And as you stated, on Friday, I forwarded to the board members and to the applicant the email from Elizabeth Smith. She lives in the condo complex next door. We did get an email today. It was actually sent on Sunday, but because it didn't meet the deadline, we didn't forward that on. But that was from Mary Louise Shable, and she's also in that condo complex, unit 19A. And she does say there's some noise issues.
Okay, Mr. Federer, we'll give you an opportunity to, since she read it, do you want to say anything about those letters?
Sure. Well, I respect that. And it's a condo complex, so they do have rental there as well. So I'm not aware of any noise issues at the house, but I would love to have a conversation with her and make sure she's satisfied, because I don't want to create an environment where somebody has to live. If they feel that it's going to be a problem, then I would love to address it or see when that was and then, but I reached out to the other neighbors to make sure, especially right to my left, and you saw one of the pictures there, but, and she has nothing, and she heard nothing, and she has her family there and they haven't heard anything. And so yeah, anything that I can do to help mitigate that outside of the normal Airbnb process and vetting the tenants. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk to her or not, but I would love to address any issues she has, and she can hit me up. I can give a number or whatever, and I'd absolutely make sure there's no issue.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, I could go ahead and forward that email to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I allowed to reach out to her to talk to address her concerns, or?
Yes, of course. It's a public record email, so yes.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Williams
you.
has a question for you, sir.
Okay.
Well, I guess this is kind of for the staff as well, but those letters that made the deadline, what were those concerning?
It was one letter, and it was from Elizabeth Smith, and she just says she owns, in the picture, you can see the condos. I'm owner of one of the condos on Parkdale Drive. I'm not in favor of changing the zoning from single family to short-term rental. And then she just lists the address. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a question, comment, concern? If not, I'll close this case to the public. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny case BZA-0121-00452.
Yes, I'll take a stab at it. This is
Very
the first
good.
time.
Very good.
I make a motion that we approve case number BZA 0121-00452 for applicant and property owner Jason E. Fiddler in terms of his requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental. One, it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. Number two, adequate provision is made and or exists for such items as setbacks, buffering, including fences and or landscaping, to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influence of the proposed STRP use, such as noise, traffic congestion, trash, parking, and similar factors. And, oops, sorry you all, I have shuffled papers and I think I've placed the other page too in the wrong place. Oh, here it is. Number three, complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of this ordinance, including but not limited to any use conditions, zoning districts, standards, and applicable STPR site plan review requirements of the ordinance. And I make this motion based on the 4 additional special exceptions that must be met that the staff have listed here. Number 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the STRP limited site plan review process. Number 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. Number 3, this property shall not be used as a short-term rental for more than 144 days in aggregate during any calendar year. And number 4, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Whitson Small. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Borkin, thank you.
Yes.
Any questions, comments? Very good. Ms. Working, could you call the roll for the vote?
Yes. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Merchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the 4 conditions.
Sir, congratulations. Well, you muted right now, sir. You muted.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, but thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
So within 10 working days or business days, you will get a letter from staff letting you know the next steps in the process, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. And have a good night, sir.
You too. Y'all too. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we're winding down. Our next case tonight will be case BZA-01-21-00453 And Ms. Workman, we're gonna do 454 at the same time?
Oh, good. I'm on mute. Yes, sir.
All right. So we have two cases this time. And this will be done by Mr. Downing.
I'm going to do this one.
Oh, you're gonna do it, Ms. Workman. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. The applicant is Nick Allport of HLA Inc. and the property owner is Paul H. Spites Sr. The property is located at 2690 Swigert Boulevard on Johns Island. The TMS number is 311-000050. And this property is located in the industrial zoning district. The first request is for a variance to allow parking spaces along an ingress-egress easement for a proposed dry stack boat storage facility. And this is Chapter 9, Article 9.3. The second request is a variance to omit the required 8-foot planted vehicular use buffer along an ingress-egress easement for a proposed dry stack boat storage facility. And that is Article 9.5. Next, please. These are the sections for the first case in Chapter 9, and then the sections for the second case in Chapter 9. This is a zoning map. The purple is industrial. The yellow is R4 residential. Next, please. And then a zoomed in aerial of the property and a zoomed out aerial. It's off of River Road, Swigert Boulevard. So this is the actual ingress egress off of Swigert Road. You can see to the left where the parking is. Next. And then we just have some photos of I cannot speak. Boulevard. Next. Again, this is a photo showing where that vehicular buffer would be and the request to allow parking in this area. And these are the buildings that are going to be demolished. Our building and a view of the Stona River from the property. As far as the criteria, let's see. We stated that it meets 1, 2, 3, and 5, and that it may meet 4, 6, and 7. We did have one suggested condition of approval. The applicant property owner shall complete the site plan review process. And that's all I have. If you have questions for me or the applicant, we can get them on. This is the site plan. And then the plats, there's a couple pages, but we can go back to the site plan. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Mr. Martin. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Ms. Working, I was trying to figure out, I think I'm pretty clear on where the parking request is and what's being asked for. I know the boat storage is not part of this application. So my question really is, is that something that's already pre-approved and in the works? Is that something that will have to come back to this group? And then where is that exactly going? I'm fairly familiar with the property. I couldn't tell which building was being demolished. Was it the long rectangular one or the kind of square one at Ross Marine? And if that's all irrelevant, just tell me. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. So you weren't on the board. They did hear that a request to be close to the critical line, and that one was approved with condition, with a condition or conditions. That order isn't there in here, but it's that long rectangular building. And Mr. Spites can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the one I think I remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure they're pretty close to being done with site plan review. Jennifer, do you need to chime in on that at all?
So the bulk of the work's really done. This is just getting some parking taken care of.
Right. Basically, when they decided to redevelop it, that kicked in all the zoning rules, had to apply to some non-conforming issues. So it's really just a non-conforming parking that they just want to keep.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question.
Ms. Smalls?
Is that the only parking available to that facility?
I do not think so. This plan shows, oh wait, yeah, they're gonna build, so if you look at that site plan, like to the right next to my head, that shows the parking they're proposing to build. That's gonna be a new parking area. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. But this parking is closer, like this is their office. So this is the parking that's closer to their, I believe that's their office.
Very good question, Ms. Smalls. Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. Ms. Working, is the applicant available?
Yes.
Would you please bring them on and swear them in?
Okay. Hi, Nick. Are you guys all together today, or did you want to go first?
It's just me. I believe Paul was chiming in on Zong.
Okay. But did you want to go before Paul?
Sure.
Okay. If you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Okay. And then state your full name and address for the record.
Name is Nicholas Allport. My address is 29A Lineback Drive. And that is Charleston, South Carolina. Zip code 29407.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good. Well, thank you for coming tonight and appearing before us. Please tell this board why we should approve your application, sir.
Will do. Like Jenny stated, the parking in question is existing. It serves the one-story concrete building shown in the site plan, which is not part of the dry stack development. The dry stack entrance will be before the parking, so it won't impede with any existing traffic flow. The existing parking field is capped by a private gate that controls access onto the rest of the island. So there won't be any, or there'll be limited traffic impede or conflict from existing uses. The vehicular use buffer, if enacted on the existing parking, would only screen the parking from its intended use. Let's see, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, the proposed dry stack's not going to impede with anything. We're kind of just, like Jenny said, looking to keep what's existing there and bring the dry stack up to code.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does any board member have a question of the applicant? I have one question for you, sir. When did you guys acquire this property?
When did we acquire the property?
Yes, sir.
He's not the owner, Mr. Ray.
Oh, that's
Mr. Spites is on. He's the owner.
Okay.
We can get him on in a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Does anyone have a question? I see no hands. Thank you so very much, sir, for your testimony tonight. Ms.
Okay,
Working?
and you just stay on and I'm going to meet you. All right, so there's Paul Sr., Paul Jr., and Dustin, but I'm going to try to start with the senior and see if this is the right one.
Am I there?
There you are. See you.
Okay.
Mr. Spice, if you can please raise your right hand. I I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Do you need my full name?
Yes, full name and address for the record. Thank you.
Paul Hamilton Spikes, 2431 Pristine View Road, Charleston, South Carolina.
Good evening, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, and you?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you. Thank you so very much for coming before us and giving us your testimony. Please tell us why this board should approve your application, sir.
Okay. My main reason for getting on was in case there were questions. I'll give a few things, and we'll go into that if anybody has any. This I came on with the business about 1976. This building has been there the whole time. This parking has been there the whole time. We the family purchased the business in 66. And this particular building is for our boat repair facility. It's really not tied to a dry stack, even though it's nearby. The dry stack has its own office space, its own parking, and it'll be independent. And what happened is we were caught up in the overall regulations, which is wanting to take our parking that we've been parking in since the 60s right in front of the office. And the road coming to it actually ends at our gate to our facility. You can't go any further unless we open the gate and allow you in, or either you got to park in the parking area. So it's not like a thoroughfare that a lot of cars are coming across. So we've never had a accident that I'm aware of since I was there, been here since 76, of somebody backing out into the street and getting hit. Also, the property line that we're talking about, first, the boatyard is owned by Swaggart Shipyards, and that property line is owned by Swaggart Company. So it's all a family thing here. So it's not like somebody that's, that's not even part of this business. That whole island is owned by us, and we have the boat business, and we also got this dry stack. We're trying to come down from a heavy industrial to a light industrial use in this area, and this is one way we are able to do it. I think that's just a few things I brought up, and I'd like to go ahead and see if anybody has any questions that I can answer for you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Williams?
You said it's family owned? You said the dock is owned by a different family, or?
No, this is a family-owned business.
And it's how far away from the road is it? I'm just curious.
And reference the building?
The main road, I guess.
The main highway?
Yes, sir.
River Road is right at a quarter mile away. Okay. You have to have a reason to come down that road. There's nothing there but our business.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there are other things there, but you got to come to our facility in order. If you're coming down that road, it doesn't lead to anything else.
Is that a dirt road or is that a paved road?
It's a paved road.
Okay, but not that much traffic. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? I have a question as a boat enthusiast. What type of boats do you service there, sir?
Between 30 foot and 70 foot. Most boats that go in the water, we have a method of, we've got a lift, we pick them up, put them on land, paint them, fix them, put them back in. This dry stack will let us get into a market that's different than what we do. And I look at it as one way to get boats off the boat landings and get them up in the dry stack. They're safer and being sitting in the water in docks, all tied up to docks. So it's a clean way to do this.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Very good question, sir. Very good answer, excuse me. Anyone else? Thank you so very much for your testimony, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Mr. Spites, did your sons want to speak or anyone else want to speak? Or is
I
that it?
don't think, I think they just wanted to listen.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay. So Ms. Working, we don't have anyone else to speak in support or in opposition.
That's correct.
Very good. Board members, do we have any questions of staff? Any general discussion? Mr. Williams?
I guess a general discussion, the HLA Inc., is that a construction company or is that a management company or?
That's Adam that spoke, the first speaker. It's an engineering firm. He does the plan. He did the site plan.
Okay, I'm just curious. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Any general comments?
I mean, Nick, what is it? Sorry, Nick.
Nick, yeah, Nick.
Sorry. Long day.
Very good. At this time, I will close all discussions in this case to the public, and at which I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny this application BZA-01-21-00454 and 455. All right, Mr. Borkin, thank you for stepping up.
I was waiting. In the matter of BZA cases, BZA-01-21-00453 and BZA-01-21-00454, I move that we grant these two applications. I find that they meet.
Borkin, I hate to stop you.
Yes.
We're gonna have to do one at a time.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Sorry, I misled you.
Nope, that's okay. All right. I guess I'll do the first one first. In the matter of BZA case number 01-21-00453, I move that we approve the application. I find that it meets all 7 of the criteria, enumerating them. That criteria 1, that there are extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. Is zoned industrial. It's been used in a heavy industrial manner, and now that's being redeveloped in a way that's going to be much more friendly to the environment and provide amenities to the residents of the area that don't necessarily exist there. It's going to have to incorporate itself with existing buildings and structures and roadways and parking areas that previously existed. So that does make the redevelopment of this property somewhat challenging. So I do believe that there are extraordinary exceptional conditions. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. As far as I know, I'm not sure if there's any other industrial use property near that area. Most of it's residential. So these conditions do not apply to other property in the vicinity. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. As Mr. Spites pointed out, the parking issue that they've been using for decades is essential to the functioning of their business, and simply because they're doing a redevelopment, new regulations are going to impact them. And I think that in this case that they do unnecessarily restrict the ability to use the property as it needs to be under the industrial zoning. Number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting these variances. Again, it's already zoned industrial. What this is going to do is improve it, if nothing else. It's going to go from heavy industrial to a lighter industrial, and it's going to, I would say, enhance the area and character through the change in the redevelopment. The number 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance to the effect of which would be to allow the establishment or use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. This does neither. It's it's just another type of permitted use that's going to be conducted on it as an industrial zone property. Number 6, the need for the variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions. Again, this was an allowed non-conforming use that now has come under scrutiny because of the redevelopment and going through this process. So nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that it's going to be developed in a more beneficial way for folks that have to be around there and conduct business there. Number 7, granting the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan and purposes of the ordinance. It does not. And then I would include the one condition that the applicant property owner shall complete the site plan review process.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. Do we have a second? Mr. Williams, I saw your hand first.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Working, would you call the roll for the vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Miss Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Mr. Merchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
Miss Switzer Smalls?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous with the one condition.
Very good. You want to do the next one, Mr. Borkin? I think you were up for it.
I'll be happy to. And I wish I could just say what I just said before. So in the matter of BZA case 01-21-00454, I move that we approve that application. And again, I find it meets all 7 of the criteria. Criteria 1, there are extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. As I stated before, but to restate it, it is an industrial use site that's on an island, and it was already under a previous type of use, and now we're redeveloping the property that is going to require the new use to coexist with the other ongoing uses. So the shape and all the rest of it, the access, ingress, egress, all those make it an extraordinary and exceptional conditions. Number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Again, it's an industrial piece of property that's surrounded primarily by residential areas, and it's industrial uses are going on adjacent to one another, and this is a redevelopment of that property, and is not like the other properties near it. Number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The parking is limited, and to make that work with all the buildings and ingress and egress and the different types of uses coexisting, this particular ordinance would unnecessarily or restrict it. Number 4, that authorization of a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting the variance. Again, if nothing else, this will be an improvement from heavy industrial to light industrial. Pollution, many number of variables and factors will be much improved, and I think it will enhance the livability of the area. So criteria 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. It will do none of those things. It is a permitted use. Number 6, the need for the variance does not result in applicant's own actions. They're just repurposing the area in this industrial use zoning, and again, limited space, surrounded by water, limited ingress, egress, all those things were outside of the applicant's control. So it meets that criteria. Number 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan and purposes orders. It does not. It is light zoning in a zone, industrial zone, I mean light industrial, and being used in an industrial zoned area. And finally, that this motion would include the one condition by staff: the applicant / property owner shall complete the site plan review process.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Borkin, for that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Williams, I saw your hand first. Thank you. Ms. Working, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Yes. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman? Mr. Freeman?
Aye. Sorry.
Great, thank you. Mr. Merchant?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
Ms. Switzer Smalls? Ms. Smalls? She's probably muted too. You're muted.
Aye.
There you go. Thank you. I know it's late. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, and Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous with the one condition.
Thank you so very much, board.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your application. Both applications have been approved. Within 10 business days, you'll be getting information from staff letting you know the next step in the process. So both, that is, both of your applications were approved, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And good night, sir.
Good night. Thank you, to board members. I appreciate it. Good day.
Very good. Ms. Working, do we have anything else before this august body?
Of course. So I think you guys all got my email. I think I sent it on Friday. It was a whirlwind. But yeah, we took in about 20 people tried to apply for the April 12th meeting. We took in a total of 15 applications, new business applications. So we have the 15 new business applications and the 1 old business. So my idea was to spread them out. I've had 6 responses, so a quorum would be 5, that they can attend April 5th, and we'll have the 7 new business cases. And for April 12th, there are 2 board members I know that cannot attend, but hopefully we have a quorum still for April 12th, because that agenda would have the Church Creek old business case and then 8 new business cases. And this really helps us a lot because I just don't think it would work out, especially on Zoom, to have a meeting that long. You know, we start, by the 6th case, start getting a little tired. And it'd be hard to manage that many people, I think, on Zoom as well, so.
Okay. Do we have anything else on training? One moment, sir.
No, it's just, again, it's all self-study. So I'll be reminding you throughout the year, and you can always contact me with any questions. If there's anything, you know, interesting that comes up, I'll let you know as well.
Mr. Martin, you had a question, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologize my ignorance. I know I'm new to the board, but this is a procedural question. Why the process of going through each criteria, explanations, et cetera? Is there an expeditious way to make approvals or denials from a procedural standpoint? I just out of curiosity.
I'll answer that question for you, sir.
Yes. So previously, our attorneys had us reading the staff reports verbatim. The main reason is so that if a case gets appealed to circuit court, that they have your findings, because our findings is a staff report. Your findings are what you guys state, whether it meets 1 through 3, 1 through 6, 1 through 7. So it's important for the court to have your findings, and then we put those findings in the order, the final decision, and that final decision is mailed, like Mr. Ray said, it will be mailed 2 weeks, so 10 days. And then they have 30 days from the date that we mailed out to appeal the decision. So those are your findings that we're putting in the order, and that's what would go to court. That's why. Is that a good
That's
answer?
a question, sir. Go ahead. You had another question. Very good.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just assume that our findings are in concert with your findings. Could a motion be made, approval as submitted by staff for all 6 criteria? Done. Or for all 6 criteria, with the exception of number 2, amend by, done. Yeah, I'm again, more of a procedural, expeditious way of getting through meetings.
I don't think we'll be able to do that because since we're not reading the reports anymore, like, you know, I'm just basically saying it meets 1, 2, 3 or whatever. Before, when we were reading the reports, I think that probably would have been fine, but since we're not reading the criteria, I don't know that that's going to work.
No,
But I think,
Jenny,
yeah.
Jenny, am I on mute? Jenny, can you
No,
hear
we
me?
can hear you. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Marchant, the staff is simply providing an administrative function. The board sits in a position of a quasi judicial. So you all are equivalent to judges in the state of South Carolina. So while you're actually the fact finder and the judges of the evidence that's presented, and the people who come before the board, they are subject to contempt. So you need an affirmative finding either for or against, or to continue whatever comes before you, which gives the applicant, whether or not they're successful or not, a basis to appeal decisions that are decided by the board and not the staff. So a few years ago, what happened is essentially what you're asking, which is there's kind of a rubber stamp, so to speak, and I don't mean that in a negative way, of what staff had presented. And the circuit court judge who heard the case said there was no finding by the board. So there was nothing for the court to review in terms of what the board decided. So now we have streamlined it a little bit, but we need the board to say, yes, it meets A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or no, it doesn't. And therefore the applicant, and give a reasoning for it. So the applicant has a basis to challenge it if they decide to do so.
Right? Thank you both. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
If staff reads the conditions, do you think the board has to read the conditions as well? Or that's the only thing I could think of that could maybe streamline it.
Are you talking about what's the staff recommendations?
Right. Like if I just say, you know, it meets 1, 2, 3, and then did I say we're suggesting conditions, and then I read the conditions, or do the board members have to read them if I've already read them? Or could the board members
not necessarily. The board, usually the board member who is presenting will add and staff's position. And so that's really not a finding of fact. Those are just recommendations. And as you know, a lot of times those, other than the site plan review, a lot of those don't actually make it. So it's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Williams, you had a question, sir.
Yeah, along those lines. So when you, like, let's say, for instance, you look at those 7 criteria, does the board member always add their reasoning along with those criteria?
Well, yes, in the sense you are, usually board members will give an opinion, particularly when they feel something does not meet the criteria. A lot of times what you will hear is when it meets the criteria, the board member sometimes will simply state what staff has already stated, but that's not staff's position, but that's the board member's position. And then if the other board members agree, then it becomes the board's position.
Good question, Mr. Williams. Anyone else have a question while we have the attorney here answering these questions, and staff, of course?
I'm just grateful I don't have to read 4 pages.
Mr. Nelson?
That was awesome.
I was just going to reiterate for the benefit of those that are new to the board that previously the entire staff report was read into the record. And that was I think we made that move at the beginning of last year as we moved to Zoom meetings, and that has made these meetings much more efficient than they were previously. So I greatly appreciate that change that we made.
Me too.
You should have been on the board about 8 years ago. See how long it was.
Yeah. And then I get laryngitis, but I can't talk anymore.
Well, and you know, again, with technology, when you have the 7 criteria on a screen in front of you in a public forum, to be able to reference those as presented, you know what I mean? I'm just looking for an expeditious way to legally represent an agreement. That's all, because, you know, I mean, Zoom actually helps us in this case because we actually have exhibits almost. I mean, you could almost create an exhibit, but again, I'm not a lawyer, so
Yeah. And of course, a lot of these are routine and they're not going to get appealed, but you just never know. I mean, and we got to make sure we're doing it right every time, so that if that's the one that gets appealed.
Mr. Marchant, one thing I was going to throw out there to you, the only thing that goes forward to the circuit court or the Masters in Equity Court, whichever court gets it, is just the record. What's said at the meeting, the comments of the meeting, staff's report. So when it goes to the appeal process, there are no more new statements introduced, no witnesses are called. It's just attorney arguments with the record itself. So the judge may only have our commentary, and when we do our findings of facts, as it were, to go on to see how the board arrived at the decision it made and whether it was, proper.
Yeah, thank you. Didn't mean to prolong the meeting. Appreciate the conversation.
No,
It's fine.
Very good question. Good. You need to know that. Anything else, Ms. Working?
That's it. Hope to see everyone. I think pretty much can come on the 5th. I'll recap on that with the email, but I think we have enough at least to go ahead and start notifying applicants. I think they'll be ecstatic that I'm not bumping them to May and that I'm moving some of them a week earlier. So.
Well, I'd like to take this moment to congratulate our Vice Chair, Mr. Boykin. Congratulations.
I'm just happy to be your wingman, Mr. Ray.
I'd also like to thank everybody else for giving me the opportunity to serve you and to serve Charleston County as well. And I want to thank the board and Mr. Hughie for working with me over the past few years too. All right. If all hearts and minds are clear, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night.
Everyone.